There's Sean. Admit. Sean is good on Zoom, so she doesn't need our help. Hi, Shauna.
Hi.
I knew you'd be good once you got on here. Okay, I'm just about to share my screen. Let's see if it will share desktop too. There we go. Okay, do I sound better than last time, Shauna?
Yeah, way better. Yeah, I
Okay,
can hear you perfectly.
awesome. Okay. So today we're talking about the correct position of the Western Rider. Pretty straightforward. That's kind of the name of the game. Now, if I can just make it work and move to the next, there we go. So the first thing we're going to really talk about is the alignment, and it's kind of, like this age-old thing we've been saying that you should have your ear, shoulder, hip, and heel in line, and people kind of forget about it, but truthfully is really the absolute basic part of correct position. And in Western riding, because we, or especially reining, because we do change our position based on what we're doing, I'm going to start to refer to it as our neutral. It's kind of like the position we always go back to. And I say that because, as you know, when we go to stop, we do sit back a little bit, or we might stand up in our stirrups and go a little forward when it comes to reining, right? So basically, correct position helps your horse travel correctly because you're in the middle of it. You're not off leaning to the right, you're not off leaning to the left. Correct position allows your body to be free, meaning that it can add leg a little bit as needed, or a lot as needed, or take it off. It allows you to do that as easy as possible. Helps you stay in balance and rhythm with the horse, and obviously it'll improve your confidence because you're balanced more. So today we're going to cover being balanced from front to back, balance from side to side, a position of our shoulders, pelvis, hands, and feet. So I've used my photos only because I have lots of them, and I've actually used a few of my students. So thank you to everybody who allowed me to use your photos. Where we're actually just going to look at that line from ear, shoulder, hip, and heel. So when we talk about hip, I'm talking about the middle part right here, should be generally in line with the back of your heel. And truthfully, in my photo, like I am a little bit forward, my head should be a little bit back. That is a thing you'll notice through the stream of photos that I have. I'm also looking where I'm going, and this is an in motion photo. So those results are a little bit different, but this will give you a general idea. So I'm already a little too forward because my ear is ahead of my shoulder. Does that make sense? Yay. So here is a Western equitation rider, and they are very, very close to being in line. We can look ear, shoulder, hip, and heel. This is a position where naturally we are the most balanced. Our spine gets in what we call neutral spine, and our legs are down and underneath of us and actually around the horse to the lowest point, and that's what keeps us balanced on top. Because we don't hang on with our legs, we have to use our own balance, and that's why we have to have correct position. So again, another photo of me, shoulder, ear. We all know what happens with my ears. I'm looking down. Shoulders, middle of my hip, and my heel. So here's Morgan. I guess I got some extra little lines here, but kind of same thing. Again, we're at a standing position, ear, shoulder, middle of hip, heel. This is the position where she is the most balanced. Now we have Robin here. We have ear, shoulder, hip, and you can see how much farther ahead her heel is than the line, right? So this line is on 0 degrees. It tells me that in the program when I add them in. So Robin is kind of in a sitting back position, and you can see a little bit of that based on where her ear is. It's back here behind that straight line that goes through ears and shoulders and hips, sorry. This is kind of a defensive position. There's a reason why she was a dressage rider and they kind of ride like that. So we're changing her over to the dark side. But you see other people ride like that as well. So Fiona, who's on our call today, thank you, Fiona, for letting me use your photo. We have ear, shoulder, hip, and heel. Again, we're in this neutral position. We're in a standing position. It looks all really good. And what we'll find is as riders, as we go and we start riding, we tend to get out of that position for various reasons, whether that's because we're bracing or, you know, one of our knees hurts, something like that. So trying to maintain that position while in motion is kind of the ideal goal. Same thing here. Surprise, surprise, my ears way forward. Shoulder, hip. And in this moment, I am actually opening my inside leg, so it is a little bit more forward. Could it be back? Absolutely. But I'm asking for a slow lope. I'm going from fast to slow right here. But again, you know, you can see I'm sitting a little farther back in my seat. My leg is a little bit forward. I'm not as balanced as I could be. So that's frontward to backward. And now we're going to talk about balance side to side. So in this photo, the horse is in motion, obviously. I need to be balanced with the horse. So here's where the horse is kind of on its plane. It's actually running really fast on a circle at a reining show. And this is where, you know, we can say that's the exact spot. So my feet should actually be the same distance away from that red line on both sides. When I send a line up the middle of the horse to my saddle, and this is kind of a pervy thing, but you can see my jeans that I'm not in the middle of my horse. I'm actually sitting to the outside. So again, not in as good a balance as I could have been. Here we have Robin again, same points that we've taken on the other horse. You can see she's sitting very balanced from left to right. So when we sit unbalanced from left to right or right to left, you can see if we were looking down at the saddle, you could see the pressure points. We have our pubic bone, our left seat bone, and our right seat bone. So obviously a lot more of that pressure is on that one seat bone. And that's what the horse feels. So some of the reasons why we sit like that is that we're uneven in our shoulders. We're sore through the hips, or sorry, sore through the ribs. Our hips are unbalanced, and we could just be collapsing. We have that habit of collapsing. And I think I've probably talked with most of you about this, is it's kind of things that you do on a daily basis. For example, if you're like me and you always rest your armrest in the truck when you drive, so you tend to collapse through that right side of your body. That shoulders lower, your elbows on the armrest, and through your rib cage, you kind of collapse. We tend to do those same movements on the horse. So that may be one of those reasons. So there's basically 3 ways to sit on a horse. I know it sounds so simple. Our 2-point, which is when we have pressure in each of our stirrups. Basically, we're going to go over a jump. Our deep seat, where we're driving and into the seat, and our legs are very loose. Think kind of upper level dressage. It looks like their legs just hang, right? They use their seat for a lot of the cues. And then of course my way, because it's always right. No, I'm kidding. You're not driving with your seat. It is an aid, but you're sitting balanced on the horse in a relaxed way. And then when that happens, you can use your aids very easily. You can add 3 pounds of pressure on your leg on one and 1 pound on the other, or maybe you're kicking with one and yet the other one's open. Like when you sit in that way, those are things that are an advantage to you. Not that you can't with a dressage seat, it's just a little different. So this is your balanced over your stirrups, and you can see here she's standing just in her stirrups. She is a little forward for a 2-point. She's probably mimicking going over the jump, but even her hips and her heel in her line. So that is how you kind of stay balanced. She has to offset a little bit of that by stretching out because she's a little bit forward. In this photo, she's actually sitting on the mane. I had to use some English people in this presentation because there just isn't a lot of Western photos. This is a dressage rider, as you can see, is driving in the seat. The legs are more relaxed. They're in a longer stirrup. In fact, a dressage rider rides in a longer stirrup than we do as Western riders. And you can see that that head and shoulders are back behind the seat bones. So here's our balanced and relaxed. You know, she's in the middle of her horse. Her heels are down. She's not kind of pressing really into her stirrups. This one's a little open, maybe with a little bit of a heavy heel, but she's in the middle. So when we think about what the horse feels when we're sitting in these different seats, and I'm going to show you what chair seat is in a minute. Ideally, when you're balanced, you should be able to feel your two seat bones lightly and your pubic bone a little bit lighter than that. When you're tipping forward, meaning your legs are out behind you, you're going to feel a lot of pressure on your pubic bone and a little bit of pressure on your seat bones. When you're in chair seat, as we call it, you're going to feel pubic bone, seat bones, lots of pressure there. And you're actually going to feel a little bit of your tailbone, and that's because your pelvis is rotated. So let's go and look at those. So this is somebody in chair seat. You can see it kind of looks like they're sitting in a chair. Their feet are out in front of that neutral line. Their shoulders and hips might be underneath of it, but this leg is the really obvious thing. So some of the reasons why you might be in chair seat is your stirrups are too short. It's an incorrectly fitted saddle for you. Maybe the seat is too small. Maybe the seat is too large. You people who sit in chair seat do tend to have really tight quads and really tight hip flexors. And last thing is we see kind of the angle of the pelvis being the issue. Do you guys recognize anybody that you ride with or that you see on a daily basis that sits in chair seat and you just wonder how they're doing that? Come on, I know you. Awesome. Oh, good. Okay. So tipping forward, I didn't have a great photo of this one. So this is somebody actually in a ranch class, but you can see how her legs, if you looked at her heel, you're in line, is back behind her seat. She has the ability to hang on to her horn in this class, but that's kind of what the angle of the pelvis is. So imagine that girl kind of sitting down, straight down, and what that would look like. Sometimes we see tipping forward, obviously, when the heels aren't down or if they lack mobility in the ankle, that we have upper body too far forward. We've seen that in some of my photos as well. Or if their stirrups are too long and they're desperately trying to reach down with them in their toe. So now we're going to talk about the pelvis. So basically our pelvis is a control center for where we make changes to our horse. We can, widen the angle in our pelvis by sitting back and drive the horse. We can sit neutral, which doesn't drive nor stop the horse, or we can get even forward. I think of it as like a gear shift, right? That's kind of how I train my horses. So when I sit back, we're going to stop. When I'm in neutral, we're good to go. When I get forward, we're going to go forward. So the surface through which the rider's weight contacts the saddle, that's what the horse feels. They can tell if you're leaning left or leaning right. It's basically our center of balance. And actually your core or your pelvis connects some of the largest muscles in the body to make a huge source of strength. You can use that to your advantage when you have control of it really well. Okay, you guys ready for all this fancy words? So this is what your pelvis looks like. This is the back. This is the front. The bottom of these two bones is what you feel in the saddle. And your pelvis attached with your femur is basically your hip. In riding, I know it's a crazy drawing, but in riding, we want to envision the pelvis like a bowl, and it's a bowl with water, cereal, whatever you can imagine is in it. And when we're riding and we want to be in our neutral position, we want that bowl not to spill. Okay. So here's a picture, of course, of the bowl over top of your pelvis. And again, I'm sorry for the English pictures. There just aren't any for Western. And it was minus 30 this week, so we weren't getting any. So here's your bowl. This is somebody who's, maybe not fully in chair seat, but certainly pretty close to it as far as angle of pelvis. And you can see it can spill out. And this is actually what your pelvis looks like underneath your skin. Okay, and how that angles there. So then we have someone who's tipped forward. You can kind of see the change from our pelvis here, how far it's come, because in the other picture it was way back here. But now it's way up here, and you can see even here where the pubic bone is getting quite close to the saddle. It would spill out the front. I tend to be a little here sometimes. Now when we're balanced, it doesn't spill. And you can see these are your big bones that you can feel in your hip. They are right in the middle. This should feel like a fairly balanced spot when you get in it. The problem comes to the tight hip flexors, the tight quads. All right. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm kind of rambling.
Is there a difference between whether a person has long legs or short legs?
So the length of the leg doesn't make a difference. Where it comes into play, though, is are they in the correct saddle? And truthfully, if they have a really large thigh, because there are people that have larger thighs than the rest of their body, it's not, they need a saddle that will fit them well. So like if you had maybe a little bit larger thigh, you might have, a narrow twist on your saddle. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
Okay. Saddle fit or size of saddle is not dependent on the size of your ass. It is dependent on the length of your femur.
Right. Yeah, I have heard that before. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So now we're on rider's hands. Oh. So generally, we want to see, it's a pretty general rule. We want to see a straight line from your elbow to the bit. Your thumb should be up. Your elbow should do the work, and not kind of your wrist or forearm. So if you find that your forearm's really tight when you're riding, your elbow's not doing the work. And you shouldn't feel the need to bend your wrist. Like it should be able to be straight in line with your forearm. And your fingers, of course, should be closed ideally. So even though we're riding this horse in a draped rein,
Nice horse.
thank you. I think you might own it.
I do.
We are going to look for still that pretty straight line from elbow to bit. Same thing here. It's a little hard because I ride with my left hand. One-handed, but still, you can still see the rein is straight. And what that allows me to do is actually when I bring my elbow up along that line, I've still maintained that straight line. Here's the dressage rider that we talked about earlier, and she has her arms raised, so I can almost feel the tension in her forearms. But if her hands were back in line with this, it would be a better connection to the horse's mouth. And this lady here, she's not too bad, but she's kind of got those broken down. I can almost envision her kind of pulling left to right on the reins to get the horse's face down in this picture because of how the forearm here is engaged. And it's almost like, imagine, I'm just trying to think. Oh, the action of like closing a window. That's kind of what she's doing with her arms, or wants to do, I guess. So here we're getting pretty straight. This rider in fact, is picking up the inside rein. You can see that by the length of rein versus the other side. So she's probably going to turn a corner or trying to push the shoulder over, something silly. But generally a good line from elbow to bit. Any questions about elbows to bits? Perfect. Crickets. We're going to go on to the rider's feet. So ideally, and what works best so that the calf can be engaged with the horse's side is the foot is on a 45-degree angle. I mean, pointing out. And those that ride with me will hear me say, ride like a duck, move your feet like a duck. Your heel should be down. It doesn't need to be like drove into the ground, but that heel kind of acts like a shock would in a car. So it's going to come down more sometimes and less at others. In order for the stirrup to stay on the foot correctly, your heel has to be lower. As soon as the heel comes up, the foot wants to slide through the stirrup, and then you end up with that stirrup back almost against your heel. So we call that the ball of the foot, where that stirrup should stay. So this is a rider who's only on their toes. Granted, they are jumping a fence. Again, sorry for the English people. Really on her toes, okay? And these people tend to push up from their toes and their heels end up higher than their toes. That's why, because they aren't using the whole foot. Okay? This is someone who's also in a little bit of a chair seat. You can see her heel is higher than her toe. A little bit of this is done because she's got that left leg really on there and it's actually driving her leg and her knee higher. And if her heel would have been down, she wouldn't be in such a chair seat. This guy here, you can see he's got his heel way up. He's on his toes. He's hanging on with his calf and pushing up with his toe. So this lady is obviously a barrel racer because she has these funny looking reins. And I imagine that she's hanging on to turn around a barrel and she's trying to close this leg. And she's trying to tell her horse to go more to the right, trying to guide him probably around the barrel. But what's happened is she's put her toe down, her spurs in her back cinch, and she's actually closed her entire leg. So she's closed her thigh and her calf. If she had just turned her toe out, this part of her leg here would be on the horse and her spur would be on the horse's side and be more effective. So when you're riding, you want your back of your leg, which we just talked about, your calf to be able to get on the horse really quickly. So it's kind of there. I tell people that when I think about how your legs should hang, they should hang like a wet towel would across a saddle. But your knee should be off. So if your knee is off, your calf can come on. If your knee is on, your calf automatically comes off. You can see here, this is me again, on the 45-degree angle, and there's space in between my knee. And that's what I'm looking for. Because when we ride, we don't close our thighs. We close from our knee down. So our knee closes around our horse, and that's how our heel and maybe our spur later come on. And you should be able to put your leg on and your spur not come on if your toe is up and your heel is down. So here's a better kind of example of this. You can see where my leg is on, but my spur isn't touching my horse. Now, if I closed it or put my toe down a little bit, it would be. Same thing here. These are out. You can see my calves are on. Okay. Any question about the foot? What? I'm going to zoom through these. If you guys don't have any questions. Shauna, I know you got a question.
Yeah, I do.
See, I knew it.
So like I like sometimes I'm gripping with my thighs.
Yeah.
Like how much do you think that that like is like my foot angle is like contributing to that? Do you think that that is like a big part of that? I'm just when you're saying that, I was like, oh, I I'm always working on kind of like lowering, like getting a better foot angle because often my heel is coming up.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, do you think that that is like probably connected?
I think there's, I think two things are happening. I think everybody, when they start to ride, grips with their thighs, and it takes time to develop the balance and the muscles and the understanding to feel comfortable to relax your thighs because it's human nature to hold on to stay balanced.
Mhm.
But I certainly think if you feel your toe is coming up, your thigh is probably not in the best place to be able to be relaxed.
Okay.
And if you grip with your thigh, you probably are gripping with your knee as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does your knee ever feel sore on one side?
I don't think so.
Okay,
No.
well, that's good.
Yeah.
So, just working on when I first explain this, I talk about calves a lot more to my advanced students, but think about being able to touch your heels with each other underneath your horse. Now, you're never going to be able to because your legs aren't long enough, but imagine that you could. That's the part you want on your horse.
Okay. Okay.
Can that give you a bit of a visual to kind of think
Yeah.
about? So you will have to turn your feet kind of out
Yeah.
and then think about hitting your heels together.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's helpful.
Any other questions?
No, just the challenges with short legs.
Yeah. And the thing with when you have short legs as a rider, you got to get a horse that your legs can still go around to feel the most balance. Because the problem when you have short legs is they only go so far down the horse, and then you're basically top heavy,
Right.
right? So you have to work even harder. Imagine if your legs were a foot longer and now your center of balance has come down so much more.
Oh yeah, I just envy people with long legs.
Yeah, well, I envy short people because they can ride a lot of ponies. All right, so let's talk about the shoulders. So ideally, your shoulders should be in line. They should be level. They should be in line with your hip. So if I took a line and did it from one shoulder to the other, it should be equal across, and I should be able to connect that same angle to where your 2 points of hips are. And you shouldn't be kind of collapsing. I'm also terrible about this, collapsing through the ribs. So here's an example of a rider. I don't quite know what she's doing with her hands, but it doesn't seem like something too specific. She is collapsing through this right shoulder, and whether it's through here, in fact, I expect it's probably through the hip. She may have some sort of injury to her hip, or maybe one thigh is tighter than the other. And I think we saw that in the stretching clinic, Shauna. Um, those are all things that we're going to try and straighten out because what happens when we get kind of unbalanced that way is our weight is either on the left side of the horse, more of it is on the left side of the horse, or more of it's on the right. And that horse will tend to drift wherever the most weight we have. So if we're leaning off to the right or we've pushed our hip over that way so that that's what the horse feels, they're going to move to try and catch you because they want to put your weight in the middle of their back because that's the easiest way for them to travel and they're lazy. For you guys, imagine what it's like to carry a backpack with cans of, I don't know, tuna in one side, and on the other side, you got feather pillows. You are going to want to shift that backpack and probably fall a little to whatever side you've got the cans on to make that the most comfortable you can while trying to carry that backpack. So same thing here. This guy's really centered. I'm actually not convinced that this is not an AI image, but it really shows, how when your shoulders are straight, that everything else kind of straightens up, especially because he has these lines in his shirt to show us. Okay, so your challenge is to find some photos of yourself and evaluate your position based on what you've learned. If you're a current client, you have to bring them to your next lesson. You're welcome, Shauna. Everybody's pretty much, I know everybody here. So I'm just gonna get out of this. And then let's kind of talk about it. Or maybe some of you have some images that you'd be willing to share.
When?
Any times that you're riding, do you have any photos of you riding that we can analyze?
Right now?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get them on this computer, but I would. I don't know how to do that.
Do you have them on your phone?
I do.
Why don't you text them to me?
Do I text? What's the number? Or
It's 604
okay,
785
okay.
9953. And then I can share them if you're fine with me sharing them, and
Sure.
we'll just work through it together. I'll delete this thing here. There we go.
This is a very good one.
Doesn't have to be perfect. Shyla, I don't know if I ever took ones of you. I think you were away that week where we did everybody's.
Yeah, I think we were probably going to do it last week, and then I ended up missing last week.
Oh no, I've done it a few weeks ago. You might have been in Mexico, like all my other friends, and they're plus 30
Okay, let me do
and they're plus 30 temperature, and here we are freezing at minus 31.
That's okay. I had to pay for it considering it was minus 25 and the heater went out in my water trough, and I had to change the element in the dark after the kid went to bed.
Well, I can feel you. How's the temperature up in Mackenzie, Rachel? You're muted again. Can I hear you now?
There we go.
Yeah.
I was muted because my dogs were playing with their toys and barking and
Oh.
everything else. We did a stretch of minus 30 here too, and now it's back to balmy minus 15.
Oh, is it? It was still minus 25 this morning.
Oh no, it's not too bad here. The kids got to have an out day at school. It was nice.
Woohoo! Oh,
Yeah,
here.
they're crawling on the walls.
Okay, I've got your image. And just give me 2 seconds to send it to my laptop, and then I'll just put it up here. Anybody else got anyone they want to send me? No?
Nope.
Oh, come on. You guys are no fun.
Here, I want to send that one.
Okay, let me drag this over here, and then I'm going to share this. So just give me a second here.
Hey, I'm impressed I got this done.
Yeah, look at you go, right? Well, now I just got to...
There's two. They're both probably bad.
No, it's fine. We'll take whatever you got here. Okay, hang on. I got to figure out what my Zoom is now. God, there it is. And share my screen. There we go. I'm going to share to. There we go. Okay, give me 2 seconds. That's my lovely backdrop. It's the problem when you have. Can everybody see Cindy's photo? Okay, I'm going to zoom it in a little bit. So we are off in just a touch of an angle. Oh, where am I? There's my little thing. Let's make this red so everybody can see it. And then let's get to 90. So we've got You know, if you weren't looking at the camera, we can imagine that your ear would be in line with your shoulders and hip. And we are off on a little bit of an angle, so it's not 100% perfect,
Yeah.
but you probably do have a little bit of leg forward. So sometimes that can just be you don't have the room to move your pelvis.
Hmm.
So you're sitting, and I don't think you're hanging on with your thigh or anything. I think I've seen you ride. Maybe it was your daughter.
My daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we get in this kind of, I call it the John Wayne position, where they're just riding and they're kind of sitting like on the back of their butt cheeks. Like, how do I explain it? I
Well, I
guess,
went.
go ahead.
I
Nope.
went to someone once. They're always after me to sit on my pockets.
Yeah. You know, that we used to teach it that way, and we've kind of taught it differently now because we know more about, the biomechanics of riders. So we do actually, we want you to tilt that pelvis a little because I would guess that you don't feel any pubic bone on the front of your saddle at all ever.
No, you're
Yeah.
right.
So and as soon as you made that little bit of change, that leg would swing underneath of you.
Okay.
Assuming your saddle will let it. It's hard to tell. But that's certainly what I see in a lot of people I kind of just see around Prince George. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
because
it does. Yeah.
you've been taught that way. And we used to do that too. I mean, I rode hunters when that was taught, but okay. So other
Okay.
than that, like if we look at, the horse is kind of looking at, this isn't really a fair photo.
No, it's actually not. It was a quick one I found, but
Yeah. I think that, when your horse is resting his head, I'd probably see it right about there, which is
Mhm.
good. That would keep you kind of in line, so that you can be effective. And so you can stay in the middle of your horse.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of I was a bit uphill from the person taking the picture and
Yeah, we can see that. So is this the horse you currently ride?
one of them.
Oh, nice.
I sent another picture. That's the other guy,
Okay.
and we're actually in motion.
Okay, let's look at that one then.
Alicia, I got a picture too. We can look at one of mine after.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Okay, now I just gotta send it to myself. Hang on. Do you want to text it to me, Shauna? Or do you want to send it via email or what? Or do you want to share your screen? Okay. Oh, was that the same one? I just sent that one to myself twice. Let's try that again.
I found an older one I can share too.
Awesome. Do you want to text it or how do you want to send it?
I have your messenger if you can get that right now.
Yep, I can.
Yeah, okay.
Alicia, I emailed you mine.
Oh, you rock. Okay, hang on. I'm just getting organized on this one. There we go. Okay.
Ooh, chair position.
Well, and that's okay, but we know how to fix that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So we know how to fix it. And one thing you can do too is you can actually just take your legs out of the stirrups. Sometimes I find that it is the saddle. The saddle fenders are too far forward.
Oh, yeah. I
Right?
don't know.
So, and sometimes I'll even find that if you actually just take the fenders and pull them back underneath you, that will be better. Like you can you can make that change. It's not actually like you need a new saddle. You just have to move the fenders back a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it's a Billy Cook.
I actually really like the older Billy Cooks. I
Yeah, I
ride,
mean, I love riding in it. I
Yeah.
just, but,
so
but I
that's,
do need.
yeah, so this what you can do is like, remember we talked about 2 point? It sounds so annoying and so hard and it is hard work, but you can do it just at the walk. Find the spot where you can stay balanced really easily in that standing up in your stirrups. That will
Okay.
tell you where your leg needs to be. Okay.
And get off the seat of my pockets or
Yeah. And I think that's the angle of your pelvis. These stirrups might be a tad short, or it may just be what you're doing in that moment.
you think I should have like a straighter leg?
Um, I think like I think your stirrup length is good. I think we just
Mhm.
gotta get those stirrups back underneath you. I feel like the stirrup probably connects to the saddle about here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you looked at this saddle and there was nobody on it, do the stirrups hang underneath this little piece right here?
I'll double check, but I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think,
So it's going to be hard for you to be right in that spot. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah.
But you might be able to just pull them along the bars, like don't unhook them or anything. Just kind of pull them back before you get on and see if
Okay.
that helps you.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. Shauna sent me here's an email. Give me 2 seconds while I figure out what my email is. Well, I open my email. There we go.
Can I ask a quick question or should I wait?
No, just spit it out.
Now, another thing probably that may affect, you'll let me know,
Yeah.
is the barrel of the horse. Like this guy, he tends to carry a little extra weight. As hard as I try,
Yeah.
he carries a little extra. Does that affect your leg falling, like your leg position?
I mean, unless they're totally obese, I don't really find that.
Okay.
I find that, how do I put it? I don't know. It's a good way to describe this. I mean, yes, if they're absolutely chunky, you're going to be like Thelwell riding with your feet little flapping off the sides, right?
Uh,
I don't think at this horse's weight, no,
okay.
I don't think so. Um, I, yeah, when I look at this picture, I think that your thigh is quite up here close to the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that is, and I don't think, like if we go back and look, we'll just look at me and I'm riding the same horse, right?
No,
Oh, okay. Well, I'm
I don't
riding,
have any me riding him, but I've ridden them lots, but I don't have any.
um, like my leg sits right behind the cinch.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, my thigh looks a little there, but not, I don't know. Let's just go look. Yeah, like this. So these are all Billy Cooks that I'm riding in.
Right.
It's be you. I'm just trying to, how can I explain that in a way that makes sense? Because I'm not there to physically pull your leg and where I want it. I think it's a combination of, is the saddle too flat for you? The leg needs to come back. You need to kind of maybe focus on it a little bit.
Okay,
It,
I'll try and do that.
yeah, because it feels like where we have this line, we're back way at the back cinch. So
Right.
your seat might be either too flat or too big. How big a seat is this?
16-inch.
Yeah, you could probably ride in something to 15. Like I'm 5'9" and I
Mhm.
ride a 16-inch.
Hmm.
And remember, it's about the length here.
Yeah, and I'm pretty short.
Yeah. So that might be something too, that you have so much seat you think you have to fill that you get those stirrups where you can reach them and then they just end up being shorter than they need to be. And maybe if you weren't so far back in the saddle, that might
Yeah.
make a difference.
Well, that's definitely got me something to think about.
Perfect. That's the whole idea of this. Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna find Shauna's photo now that I've saved it somewhere. Downloads. Oh, perfect. That's a good photo, Shauna. See if I can make it show up over here now.
I had to get my mom to send it to me. She came to see me ride one day. I was like, "Do you have some photos?"
Yeah. Mm, perfect. And there's Miss Semi. I was gonna say her feet don't look tiny, but she's got her boots on. That's the only reason why. So just take from the point of your ear. We're gonna make sure. Oh, and there's your 90. So a little bit, but not bad. You know, and you were probably pretty relaxed at this moment, right? So it
Mhm.
wasn't like you had your leg on or anything there. Your stirrup length is a good length. That saddle fits you well. We can see here how there is some space here. And Cindy, the other thing that will change how the saddle fits you is how big in here that is.
In the swells to the thigh.
Yeah. So like some I have that like men would never want to ride in
Hmm.
because there's a big support in there. And I love riding it, but all the guys hate riding in it. So that may also affect you too. But yeah, I don't think this is bad. This doesn't even look like you're really that grippy with your thigh. It might be sometimes, Shauna, that when you go to put your leg back on, instead of like closing at your knee and trying to bring your heel back to here as you close, that you might just be lifting it up and then your thigh ends up getting clamped on.
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Kind of
Yeah.
like a guy. Yeah, like even here a little bit. You see how active his thigh is here? You can see it in his pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be something that's happening. Now, what do I do with your photo? Oh, crap. There, there, it's at the end. So, yeah, I mean, we got a straight line from pretty much elbow to bit, wherever the other end of my thing is. So, these straight lines aren't really that hard to achieve. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But there, no issues. And then you can be effective. Ready?
Um,
Go ahead.
I was actually kind of surprised when I saw the photos my mom showed me, like that my back actually, and a bunch of the other photos, my back is like really straight,
Yeah.
and my back is usually not very straight. I was like kind of surprised. But like I have a lot of trouble with my shoulders. Like my shoulders are super uneven, and I think I told you I have scoliosis, and so
Yeah.
I'm like super off balance and uneven, and I'm always kind of trying to like compensate for that. And so you can't see it so much in in this picture, but like my right shoulder is way further forward than my left.
Because
And
didn't you have an injury too?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it's like physically like even my shoulder just like drops. And it's so I'm always trying to like compensate that, but like also when I'm doing that, not like mess up my hips and like compensate in my hips. So I don't know, do you have any advice about like trying to like, center your shoulders but not compensate in other places?
I think it's like you're gonna push out through your chest rather than try and collapse and catch the other shoulder. Does that make sense? Kind of
Okay, yeah.
stretch tall would be a good thing. Another thing we'll do is like if you need that reminder and as a coach, we'll actually put a piece of masking tape across the back of your back so that we can actually see. A lot of times we see it through the tops of your jeans.
Mm,
Like we'll be able to tell if you're kind of collapsing or something through there because it does tend to come down to there. But if it's just your shoulders, we'll do like a masking tape through it, kind of in like a cross fashion. And that'll help us kind of visualize, and then you can learn from that feedback from us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that like Megan definitely has like helped me a lot that she'll be like, oh, your shoulder, your shoulder, your shoulder, because I won't even notice it, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't even feel it. It's my natural position, but my body is so twisted that it like messes everything up, right?
Yeah. And none of us are perfect by any means.
Yeah, well, I know I always think about myself that I'm like, oh, I'm all twisted because of like my
Yeah.
spine and the way it is, but everybody is kind of like collapsing in one way, or like everybody gets into that like
Yeah.
there's like unbalance in everybody's body, right?
So
But
what you've got to do and how I think about it is, I'm always going to be improving something.
Mhm.
So I just take my focus. For example, there was a while where I had my thigh on the left was like literally an inch thicker than the one on the right because I got measured for custom chaps.
Mhm.
That was embarrassing. So I learned that I was using my left leg more than my right. And I also was having a hard time getting my right foot in the stirrup. So I took a couple of weeks and I actually did exercises where I just made sure that right foot was in the stirrup. And then I started to balance out, and now I have to get my chaps resized. But we're always improving something.
Mhm.
Like, even me at however many years I've been riding, I'm still working on me. Okay, I'm gonna go quickly check for, oh, where, sorry guys, it'll come back up. I just need to find, no, where Facebook is. Oh, it's not gonna let me open that. Let's do that again. No. My Lord. This is the problem with multiple screens.
I'm just gonna hop off, Alicia.
Yep.
I super appreciate this. It was really informative and a good reminder because I know when I started lessons with you, I had like superhuman chair seat because I hadn't been in lessons or ridden in so long. But yeah, super helpful. Thank you.
Well, good. Have a good night, Rachel.
Thank you for doing this. I'll talk to you later.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay, hang on. I'm coming, Shyla. I don't know how I'm going to get there yet, but hopefully nobody gets motion sick watching my screen. Now I've just got all these things open and okay, it doesn't love me. Oh, wait, I've got it. If it'll open, it'll load. Did you send it to my personal one or my business one? Shyla?
The Hylee.
Okay, I'll just do it on my phone and this is not working. God, I'm a big old shit show today. Oh, there we go. One message. Okay. Well, that's a good photo though.
It is
Yeah.
literally the only broadside photo I have on a horse because I always had a horse that was 5 miles behind everybody.
Oh, yes. MacBook Air. Okay, let me open Keynote again. Okay, we're all going to get motion sick again while I figure out how to get to Keynote. Come on. Some days. And I'm supposed to be tech savvy, but sometimes it doesn't like me.
Technology.
Right? Okay. I'm in the right spot. Just have to get the image there now. Oh. Does not like me that good. Nope. Ah, okay. Go. Yay! Yay for me. You know you're getting old when you have your kids do stuff for you sometimes. I'm at that stage. Okay, so we are on a bit of an angle, right? I imagine because I know you that you are probably a little anxious that this horse is going to move, even though he doesn't look like he is. So that's why your hand is up a little, because you do generally keep that forearm down. And then when we go, so not bad. I know this is in a moment when you're pulling. And then let's go to where we imagine that your ear might be if you were broadside. So there's your 90. I'm not sure that we can accurately evaluate just on the angle. I don't want to pick you apart. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it was closest I had to sideways.
Yeah. So I would take a guess that this heel is only slightly in front of the line. So I'm going to take it off my 90 here just so that way we can, and it will be, I'm going to put it where I think it all goes based on how the image should be. I would say that your heel is just a little bit farther in front of your line. And I say that based on the length of your stirrup, how I know you currently ride, and how much weight I can imagine being in that stirrup. So not bad. Now, this is probably a saddle that puts your pelvis in a pretty good position based on all the blocks. And
yeah, it's an Australian saddle, so it definitely
Yeah.
rotates you forward more.
Yeah. It puts those blocks in because those guys are actually moving and they're putting you in the right position. But yeah, and I've seen you ride, so I know that this is only a little bit off. Does that make sense? So you probably
Yeah.
have a little bit more angle to go with the pelvis. Right now, you're on a horse that you're riding defensively, so opening up that angle of the pelvis is not a bad thing. It's not wrong. It's just
You played the 10, I played the 8. 10 is bigger.
it's kind of just where you're at with that horse. That's why I said think of it like a gear shift, back and forward.
Yeah, and I find that I definitely like lean forward and tip forward a lot when I start to get nervous on her.
Yeah. Absolutely. But this is another red horse. Big surprise. You like your red horses, that's for sure.
This one wasn't even mine. She was just the only available horse at the time.
But it's a red horse. It must be yours. All right. Does anybody else have any questions that I can answer?
No, I just want to go put it into practice.
Well, that's a good thing. Trust me, that's a good thing. I actually thought it would take me quite a bit longer because I had something like 50 slides and I thought, oh God, this is gonna take hours. But actually it went by pretty quick. So that's good. I got it down to a system. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, then I appreciate you coming and I hope you've got something you can take away and put into place the next time you ride.
Absolutely. I just got to get some warm weather now.
Yeah, I know. We all do.
Well, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I definitely learned lots.
Perfect. Well, that's good to hear, Cindy. All right. And you give a hug to my horse for me tomorrow.
Oh, will do. I was actually looking for a picture of Karen on him.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite find one, but she has ridden him quite a bit. I've ridden him quite a bit. He's a good boy.
Perfect. I like to hear that. All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your Friday night. Thank you. And I will see some of you tomorrow, some of you soon.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Rachel.
You too.
Good
Bye-bye.
night.